Good morning, BUSN 1360 Software Apps for Business. One of your studious classmates is hitting the ground running, which is wonderful. I am so proud of her. And she's already out there working on the Chapter 1 MyITLab Simulator, task number 7. Now, this is for Word, Microsoft Word Chapter 1, MyITLab Simulator Task 7. And there's a problem with the practice. And if you remember, the practice is what demonstrates or teaches you how to perform the task. So I wanted to show you the problem so that you can avoid it, and also tell you how to do the task, because you can complete the task. It's just the practice that gets hung. I am going to report that to the publisher so that they can address the problem. And I so appreciate her reaching out, because we are a class community and this just helps us all to succeed. So exactly the right thing, and so proud, hitting the ground running. This is fantastic. So here we are on task number 7. You may or may not know you can click on View All and pick whichever task you want to go to. So we're on task number 7 here, and the very first thing that happens is it tells me to open the footer, to type U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and not to type that period at the end. And so if you're unfamiliar with headers and footers, which you very well may be, nothing wrong with that, you can go to Learning Aids and practice.
On the Insert tab, in the Header and Footer group, click Footer, and then click Edit Footer.
So if you haven't watched my video on how to use MyITLab, you want to do that. That 55 minutes is going to save you much more time. But this is the practice. You can click on Insert, and oops, it's not talking to me this morning here, but then I need to click on Footer, and then Edit Footer. Oh!
Type U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Do not type a period.
So, I mean, isn't this great the way it teaches you? So U.S. space fish and, let me type very carefully, wildlife service. Do not type the period. Okay, now I'm finished, right? And I need to move on. And the simulator seems to be a little stuck right now, or it doesn't understand to advance like it did when I was clicking on things. So it should continue on. I struggled. I sat here and thought, well, maybe if I close the header, and that did not seem to do anything. I thought maybe if I hit the enter key, that didn't do anything. I was as stumped as your classmate is, who was wonderful and went out there and reported it, so, or, and told me about it. So what do you do, first of all, if you get stuck like this? Well, first of all, remember that you do have multiple attempts, but it doesn't help me if I can't get out of practice. You see it says practice on, and back to the task. So first of all, you can see that I could reset the practice. So that was kind of cool. Did you see that? I clicked here, reset practice.
On the Insert tab, in the Header and Footer group, click Footer, and then click Edit Footer.
Okay, so insert, footer, edit footer.
Type U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Do not type a period.
And so we've done this before, right? And we're okay. So first of all, I am a little stunned by that, because I did that before and it did not work. So I'm glad that that worked. That's one option for you. The other thing is, if you get into that, there is a reset down in this lower corner. Now, what I'm telling you to do, this reset resets the entire task. It resets task number 7. There is a problem with that. Obviously, it should have finished correctly. But what I do want you to see is that in the simulator, yeah, every once in a while things get a little wonky, and so that I understand, but it is very smart, because I can follow those steps in this task, and I could go through and complete. I could say insert, footer, edit footer, And I don't seem to have that problem when I'm actually working on the task. But I want to show you how smart this is. And see how it moved to the next instruction? So it is very smart, it's working. I want you to feel confident that it is working. It's just that practice part got a little off. But here's how smart it is. I'm going to reset this question, and I'm going to do this particular part of the instruction again. Now, when I first looked at this, sometimes I have to say I take pause for a moment, because when I work on footers, I don't go through those steps. I don't click on insert and then footer and go through that. What I am accustomed to doing is coming down to this footer area, and see how this is grayed out here. So this is the main body of my document, and down below in this gray area is the footer. And what I would traditionally do as I'm working personally, I would double click. And did you see it worked? Okay, so in Microsoft products, there are often many ways to complete a task. And what you will find is that the simulator is pretty smart. It may not have every single way, and so you can always follow the practice. But notice that it moved on to the next instruction. So it did understand that that was correct. So I just wanted to take a moment and share that with you. But your classmate is exactly right. There was a problem with the practice, and it did stall. And just, so we can gain a little confidence here, if I don't know how to do this insert tab and then select an alignment tab and select right, I can go back to practice.
With the insertion point positioned after the text U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, click Insert Alignment tab in the Position group on the Header and Footer Tools Design tab.
Okay, so my insertion point is that flashing bar. I'm on the headers and footers. This is kind of a super tab. See how it's above the other tabs? And they're telling me click this Insert Align tab.
Click Right.
So I'm creating a tab is what I'm creating. I'm going to click right.
Click OK.
And I'm going to click OK. And what was added up there was a little tab stop, and you commonly see these in footers. This is a tab stop, and what that means is that when you press on your keyboard the tab key, it moves your insertion point over to the tab point. Now, here's the cool thing about tabs. Sometimes when somebody emails you a document and they tell you to modify, to change it, you will notice that they have hit the space bar a whole bunch of times. So they start right here and they go space, 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 to get all the way over to where they want the next typing to begin, right? And here's what happens. You change the font, you start to add words, and those spaces just constantly cause problems. You have to delete them. What the tab will do is it will keep that text constant in that position, right? And you can move the tab very easily. You could, I'm in the simulator, so I can't really do this, but I could get the point of my mouse on there and I could press and drag that tab. Maybe I wanted it at the 3-inch mark, or maybe I wanted it at the 4-inch mark. So this is the power of tabs. They're very useful, and you're going to learn about those. I'll tell you something else about tabs. Notice that this tab has a vertical line, and then it has a flat line coming off to the right side here, and as I'm hovering it says left tab. But it looks a little different. If you can see this tab, it's got the vertical line, but the flat line comes to the left rather than to the right. What this is showing is the vertical line is where your insertion point will move to. So if I was at the beginning of this line, I just typed what, for example, and I pressed my tab key, then my insertion point would move to where this vertical line is. If I pressed the tab key again, it would move all the way to where this vertical line is. Now, let's again say I type the word what, and I press the tab key, and my insertion point is under this vertical bar. Then when I start typing, my text is going to go in the direction of this flat line. So this flat line starts at the left and moves to the right. That's why it's called a left tab. It starts at the vertical line on the left and then moves off to the right. If I were to tab again, I would be at the end of the document. But if I started typing, my text would not go to the left because this flat line tells me it's going to move to the left, and so it stops at the right. It's a right tab because the text stops at the right. So a little lesson about tabs, a little bonus information for you there. But the real key here is how to continue working in MyITLab Word Chapter 1, Simulator Task Number 7. If you need the practice help, this video provides you with the information that you need. Also in terms of resetting just that practice. I hope that helps. So I just applaud you for being out there and working so hard. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.